Now, if you can put that in perspective, they're not an easy enemy to fight because of that, because they do a lot of harm. There is a fighting season. There's also, it's a Muslim tradition called the Ramadan, which goes from, I want to say it's July 3rd to August 9th. That is the height of the fighting season. I was there for that. You have your harvest season, so they plant year-round. Your harvest season's anywhere from your February to your March. So they'll harvest, they'll sell the heroin and the opiates, which we try to control by doing, we do things like aerial interdiction, which we will take 2 helicopters and go fly around the desert. And we have the Predators, the unmanned aerial vehicles that'll fly around overhead and look for these vehicles and look way down. May have an abundance of drugs. That way we could just kind of disrupt that trafficking, and by doing that we can stop certain attacks from happening just because they can't fund it. But we'll go land 2 helicopters in front of a car and kick a bunch of infantry units out. They'll seize whatever they can. We'll take the detainees back to base and then let them go after we know that it's become safe at that point. Like my dad said, I like to tell the stories. Some of them stay with me, just because it's hard, because it's real over there. It's definitely, for me, it was an eye-opener. Because you see it on TV a lot. You see, it kind of upsets me, and it upsets a lot of Marines the way our country reacts when you get on the news and you see your reporter will be like, well, 5 Marines, 5 airmen, 5 soldiers died today, and then immediately move on to the next subject, and as if it's not a big deal because we've been in this war so long. Well, hey, it's just another 5 soldiers. So that hits hard with me because it's still just as important as it was in Vietnam, in World War I, in the Civil War as it is now. It's still a person that has the right to live here just like everybody else does in this world, and they chose to go fight, and it does something that we try to get across to our new Marines is that it does not make you a better person to go fight. You're just doing something for the country like we would expect everyone to do, like you people do here. You don't have to fight with weapons to fight, as my dad spoke, polio, things like that around the world, just diseases that we try to conquer. You don't have to fight with a sword, you can fight with words, with actions. The first day in Afghanistan, we landed, we got off our C-17 on the Bastion in the Helmand province, and we immediately, on the way on the buses over to the Bastion side where we would stay the rest of the 9 months, we started receiving 122mm rockets to the flight line from about 15 miles away. One of them hit one of our helicopters. Thankfully nobody was injured, but that, immediately, first day in country, you're like, okay, yeah, we're here. This is Afghanistan. This is, it's a wake-up call, realizing that there, in the country, you could die in a car accident, you could die, walking down the street, you can get hit by anything. You could die from food poisoning, whatever it may be. It's different when you realize that people are trying to kill you. Like, that is their point. That's why they're there. They don't want you there. The whole point is for them to get you out. Also spoke to some friends that I met earlier about, I read a book while I was over there called The Great Campaign, about when Alexander the Great tried to conquer Afghanistan. And he also failed, and he did it in a lot more brutal way. He murdered everybody that was in the government, poisoned waterways, and he still lost. So, we're talking about an enemy that's so dug in, and you have to understand that we're not, you can't win the war we're not going to win the war by killing people. We're not trying to kill people. We're trying to instill a government over there, trying to, what we say every day over there now, we're winning the hearts and the minds of the Afghanistan people by trying to instill a government, they can grow crops that are better in the ground than heroin, it's poppy, which is huge over there. But it's definitely a wake-up call. Flying around, you take off. Every time we take off, we go fly. Immediately, we discharge our weapons and make sure that our weapons work. We run with 3 gal 21 50 cals, one in each window, one in the tail, and we always fly with 2 planes, no less than and 2 planes at any given time, just because of the event that one plane were to go down, that plane has to protect the other plane that's down on the ground as long as possible until we can get reinforcements there to get everybody out. It's definitely slowed down. I know that the media and our president, the commander-in-chief, has said, and if you haven't heard it yet, it is true. It's very much true. It's very much, the fighting does not stop. However, a couple of years ago in Afghanistan, around the main hub of the Bastion airfield, there were somewhere around 300 FOBs. And if you're not familiar with a FOB, it's a forward operating base. So basically, you have your main hub, which would be Bastion, Leatherneck, and then you have smaller FOBs outside the bases that control different areas of the country, like Musa Kala, Kajaki, Sabi Kadam, things like that, that will set FOBs up around there just to control, the moving of the trafficking of the drugs and the weapons, and try to disrupt the movements of the insurgents to better help us kind of go rid of that, and as well as save us. We had some really bad attacks while we were out there. We had one of our FOBs get hit really hard. They took a VBIED, which is a vehicle-borne improvised explosive device. So basically they just weigh a car down with as much bombs as they can put in it, drive it up as close as they can get it to the FOB, and then they detonate. Now what we do, if you've heard of HESCO barriers, that's how we basically line our base. They're gigantic boxes that have metal crates around them, and we just fill them with sand. Those create the walls that we live in, but a big, gigantic 1,000-pound or 1,500-pound car filled with explosives can blow one of those away pretty quickly. So this is actually, the name of the FOB is Shagazi. They took a VVIED, and immediately, while the VVIED opened the gateway for people to get into the FOB, they immediately started taking indirect fire. So now you're stuck with the decision of whether you have to bunker down, because now you're taking mortars, you're taking rockets, people are shooting at you that you cannot see, as well as you need to protect the opening that they just created in your base. So we lost about 40 people in that attack. It was pretty big. A lot of the deaths weren't American. Those of you who do not know, American is not the only ones fighting the war over there. We're not even close. That is, I believe that's also kind of an ignorance that Americans have. I see a lot of people, Facebook, any kind of websites, anything like that, people rant all the time. Why does America have to be the ones that are doing it? We're not. We are the large force, yes, but we're not. You have Georgians, the Australians are there, the Britons are there. You have very small countries. I said the Georgians, very small country, and they're very inexperienced when it comes to the fighting. The Georgians, the insurgents we're not fighting an ignorant enemy. They know exactly who to attack. Shagazi was a Georgian base that had Marines helping me. Basically what we do is we'll hand off FOBs to certain countries, and they will be in control of it. And kind of the same idea of the government will stay and make sure it stands for a little while. And once we believe that they can self-sustain, then we'll back off and let them handle it by themselves. And unfortunately, it did not take long. As soon as we pulled out of that FOB and left a couple people there to help sustain it, that the insurgents knew exactly where to go. They just, we like to consider ourselves the most elite fighting force in the world, but you don't really see how well we operate until you're over there and see that we do very good things. We do very good things. We're very professional in a time like that. It's any Marines that anybody that comes back. I don't you hear of the PTSD. Basically it's more or less a disease that is given to you because you've been in some traumatic experiences, like bombs. I'd say I do have it. It's more subtle though. Mine's more of like loud bangs and anything like that. Kind of scare me. Like it sounds, whistles, anything that sounds like mortars, rockets. People coming up behind me, putting their hands on me behind me, that kind of scares me. When we go out, most of the time, if we go out anywhere, I try to sit with my back against the wall. And it's weird. It's kind of hopefully something that will grow out of me just put in a mode, Afghanistan, I carry 2 weapons on me at all time. I carry an M9 pistol and my M4 fully loaded with 3 magazines for each, and both weapons are condition 1, which is I have a round in the chamber, ready to fire immediately if needed to do so. So it's very different over there between here. You do not leave anywhere, go anywhere without weapons. You don't go anywhere by yourself, and it's very. People need to know your every move. I'm soon to get promoted in the next couple months, and even as a corporal now, I'm an NCO in the Marine Corps. I have many Marines under my charge, 20 Marines plus under my charge in my shop that I have to know where they were at all times. And that's just because we have a lot of drills over there where people just get misplaced, is the easiest way to say it. They just, and even as so much as you said you were going to go to the bathroom, you went over to the DFAC and eat dinner. We have no idea where you went, and immediately that sounds what we call an op roundup on base. We have large loudspeakers that are all over base that control basically how everybody can operate at the same time. So we have any IDF, which is indirect fire, so rockets, mortars. Anytime we were to see that, that alarm will go off and let everybody know that hey, there's incoming direct fire. With many an abundance of technology over there, we have satellites. We have large balloons that we call aerostats, and they basically have millions of dollars worth of forward-looking infrared cameras on them that can see for miles. Now they can see rockets on travel and can immediately know by the trajectory of the rocket where it came from, and we can immediately have helicopters off the ground within 15 minutes and go find out where those rockets came from and try to take the stands that they were fired off of so they cannot be fired again. Probably the hardest thing for me, unfortunately, being the largest helicopter in the military, we carry a lot of people, and not all those people are still with us on that aircraft. So that the first one, this is a little difficult for me to share. We went into a tactical mission where we were inserting some dudes into a compound in Gajaki, and the team leader kicked open the door to the house, to the compound, to go inside and clear it, and it was rigged with explosives. So he was immediately blown back. Fortunately, he did not receive any kind of shrapnel or anything. However, the door hit him in the head when it blew off the hinges. But nothing was wrong. He didn't, he got right back up. Got on the aircraft, and sometimes on the aircraft what we'll do is the guys have been out there for hours, and in Afghanistan it can be 130 degrees plus heat. And so we'll hand out water around the cabin. So I handed him a bottle of water, and he just dropped it. But he's sitting in his seat with his head down, and so I tapped him on the back, and there's nothing, and then he just fell out of his seat on the floor, I guess. And immediately we had corpsmen on the aircraft that jumped to his aid immediately, and come to find out that the door had hit him so hard in the head that he had internal hemorrhaging in his skull, and he was swelling, and it had killed him. So that is it's real, and that was not the first time, that was not the last time that happened. Watching somebody die, which is, it's something that I signed up knowing was probably going to happen someday, and that's a sacrifice that I put on my shoulders to carry, because I don't believe that everybody has to see that. I don't think that, I believe that it doesn't make me a stronger person than you. I just think that maybe something in me, God granted me the ability to see that and still carry on and do my duty beside my brothers. It happened a lot over there. I saw a lot of people pass, some in worse ways than others, but we still continue to fight, because whether you agree with the war and the politics of it or not, the whole reason I fight, and I may not agree with the war myself, my reason I fight is to go over there and protect the people that I run next to. That's the only reason I go over there. Because we have people over there that have been over there for 6-7 months, and it's time to bring them home. And that's why I want to go, because I want to go reinforce those people and get them back to their families, because I've been in the States for however many months. It's my turn to go and give him a break. but it is a reality. You do lay your life on the line out there. Fortunately, our unit was very lucky. We were the first unit since 2007 in Afghanistan to go 9 months without any mishaps whatsoever. So my unit is known for like superior excellence. We require your absolute best work at all times. And the way we say that is, it's kind of like a little code. We require your best work as fast as safely possible. So, you know, at any point you leave your comfort zone when it comes to work or anything, you talk, we keep that open door policy. I'm sure you've heard that. At any time, if you need to speak to anyone, you do so. But we did take a lot of damage to our aircraft from enemy fire. I lost on one of the attack missions we did upon takeoff in a helicopter. We go into a nose down attitude to create that vertical lift as well as that forward, so we can build that airspeed and continue forward and out. Because being a 46,000-pound helicopter, we cannot climb out fast until we build forward airspeed. We call that translational lift, when your uplift turns into your forward lift. So upon that nose descent, we basically expose everything on top of the helicopter, which is probably the most crucial moments. Those about 15-20 seconds or more in that nose down attitude is where we are the most exposed. Because when we're flying like this, we have plates in the floor of the helicopter, bullet protection system plates that basically is wearing body armor for the belly of the helicopter. But we took 15 rounds into our number 2 motor from AK-47, 7.62 rounds. We took 3 rounds into the number 2 torque shaft, which basically the way a helicopter works is you spin a gearbox through engines. Now the torque shaft is what puts that power of the engine into the gearbox to spin that rotor head, spin those blades. So the oil runs through there. So we lost the entire main gearbox fluid, which we call the heart of our helicopter. It's a 15,000-pound gearbox. It's the heaviest. It's solid magnesium. And they're only rated to fly for about 30 minutes without fluid in them. And we flew for an hour and a half. I made that call in the back of my plane, being the senior crew chief instructor in the back of the plane. I made that call to fly the plane back to base. We had almost 48 people on the plane, infantry units on the plane. But if we would have set that plane down when we were at Afghanistan, we would probably it would have been in a firefight almost immediately. We're in one of the most volatile areas called the Shark's Tooth, which is a very difficult area. I'd say, you know, as much as serious as we can be, the whole thing is you have to have friends out there. We make everything comical. So as long as nobody gets hurt, then we'll joke with ourselves. So, you know, I'll get made fun of because as soon as I walk back in the shop, you have your mechanics that don't fly, so nobody got hurt on there.